Hello everyone, Max here with A1 Website Pro in our Absolute Beginner Web Development course. And in this lesson here, we're going to be talking about forms, HTML forms. Now, there's two parts to a form. The first is creating the form, and then the next is processing the form. We're just going to get into creating the form because there's a lot of different options and a lot of different things that you need to understand about creating forms first, okay? So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to right click, hit new document, empty document. If you're in Windows, you right click, select new file. And if you're on a Mac, of course, you will follow that tutorial that I put in the Absolute Beginners Web Development course #1, where it says start here on A1 Website Pro, and it shows you how to make an index file on your desktop. So I'm going to create empty document, and I type in index.html, just like that, okay? And I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna open it with my editor. If you're on Mac, it'll be TextEdit. If you're on Windows, it'll be Notepad. So let me just go ahead and open this up and put this in my screen, and we'll slap in some bare bones HTML to get us started, okay? Now, let's go ahead and, like we start off every lesson, go into our head and make a title tag. And close that title tag. And we'll say HTML forms. Okay? And that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, if we go inside our body tag here, what we want to do is we create a form tag just like we do any other tag, but we just type in form, just like this, and then we put the closing form tag. Okay? And right there, in between there, is where we put all our form items. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to give our form item a label, okay? Label. And then let's close that, label. And let's go in here and say enter your name, okay? Now we got to give them a place to enter their name. And so with that, we'll start with input types, okay? Correct my spelling there. So this input space type equals that. And now there's several different types of inputs. The one that you'll probably use the most is the text input, T-E-X-T, okay? And if we do this and we do our / and we close it out kind of like we do an image tag, okay? But we're going to go ahead and save that, and we're going to load that up in our browser. Let me go ahead and put this down and double click on that, and that'll bring up my browser here. And let me bring it over into this window so you can see. And now you see I get a little box here for enter your name. All right. Now, if I want to, I could put a line break on this particular one so that it drops down a line. And a line break is a caret to the left with a less than sign, and then BR, a / and then a greater than sign. And if I save that, that'll put the input box right below your name. And with that, I can enter my name, right? Maximus McCullough. All right, fumbling over my fingers. Now, there's a couple other things that we need to put in here, okay? And one of them should be an ID. And I wanted you guys to get used to using IDs because later on when we get into JavaScript and Ajax and stuff like that, you want to already be used to doing this. And we'll just title this as full name, just like that. And then the next attribute that we want to use is called name itself, N-A-M-E equals, and we'll make it equal full name as well, full name, just like that. Another attribute that we can use is called the placeholder. And what that'll do is that'll give like a grayed out instruction. Let me show it to you. Placeholder equals, and you'll say enter your full name. Okay. And let's just go ahead and save that, and I'll show you what that looks like. Refresh the browser. Now you see I got some grayed out text. Whenever I click in there and I start typing, you see that it goes away. So that's what that placeholder does for you. All right. Now, there's on every form, there's usually a submit button, like at the bottom of the form. And you could do that one of two different ways. Okay. I'm going to show you the input type way. Input type equals submit, S-U-B-M-I-T. Okay. And we will close it out like that. Of course, we have to give it a name, and the name will be submit. Okay. Before that, let's go ahead and follow suit, and let's give it an ID. ID equals submit. Okay. So we make the ID and the name pretty much equal the same thing a lot of places. Okay. Now, what we need here is a value. And because if we close this out right here, let me show you what happens, and I'll save that. And we'll refresh this page here. You see, we get the name of submit automatically. But let's say that we wanted it to say submit name. So we put value equals quotes submit name, and then we'll go ahead and save that. And then we'll refresh it on our browser, and now you can see we have control of what gets said in there. Now let's say that you wanted something default in here, like maybe Joe Schmo, and you didn't want to use a placeholder for some reason or another. Okay, well, we can actually enter a value into here. And let's go type Joe, S-C-H-M-O-E. How about that? Joe Schmo. Okay, now let's refresh the page, and I can show you what's going on there. Now see here we have Joe Schmo automatically entered in there. But we can change that, we could change that to Jack Smack. Okay, and then we could hit submit the name. So that's how you can put a default value in there. All right, now let's go ahead and go back to our placeholder. I'm going to hit Control Z, put my placeholder back in there. Now let's say that this is a required field that we wanted them to make sure that they filled it out. Okay, we can add another attribute, and it would be called, let me think, I think it's called required. Yes, required, like that. And let me show you what happens when we refresh the page and I try to hit submit. You notice it says, please fill out this field. Okay. So it won't let me submit the form without them filling out the field. Okay. But whenever I fill out the field, Jack Smack, then I can hit submit. All right. And that's what happens there. Okay. Let me go ahead and go back. All right. So that now you understand that. Let's go ahead and talk about some other input types that we can use, and we'll illustrate them as we go down with other form tags. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll make H2 tags. All right, so let's make an H2 tag here. H2. First of all, let's go ahead and make our H1 because we should always have an H1 on the page, but we only need to have one of them. And that should always be what's in your title tag, HTML forms. Okay. So this first one we talked about was input type text. Okay. Let's talk about another one, and I'm going to grab this H2 tag, and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it down here. And let me go, I have a little outline over here so that we follow it in order. And this next one is going to be an input type of number. Number. Okay. And let's go ahead and give it a name or an ID. And we'll make that ID equal age. Okay. Let's go ahead and give it a name. And the name is going to be the same thing, age. Okay. So now we have the input type of number. The ID is age. The name is age. And now maybe we'll put in a placeholder. Placeholder equals enter your age. Okay. And let's go ahead and close that out there. And go ahead and make a label right here with our BR tag. We'll just take this and copy it. Enter your age. We'll go ahead and save that. Let's open up our browser and refresh. Let me go ahead and zoom out here. I have it bigger so it's easier for us to see. Now you'll notice I could put letters and numbers and symbols in this box. Now if I try to type letters in this box here, I'm typing letters on my keyboard right now, it does not let me do it, okay? You notice I get this 1, 2, 3, 4, this little up and down. So we can put in numbers, but we cannot put in letters. And that's what that type is for. You know, you're requesting a number from the person, all right? And then once again, you can have a input type of submit, you know, to make your button, just like that. Okay, but since these are two different forms, you would want to name this form something different. Okay, so maybe submit to on the ID and the name, because if you hit your submit, if you have two forms on the same page and they're both named the same thing, you know, then you're going to have difficulty processing these forms. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to copy. Let's see here. You know, the funny thing is I forgot to put my form tag in here. So let me go ahead and correct myself, FORM, and then we have to close out that form tag once again. Okay, and that would be a valid form. A lot of times whenever you use an AJAX, you don't have to use a form tag, but we're going to get into that later. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about quantity. So here we have our input type of number. We could do something else with that number too. We can actually give it a quantity, a minimum and a max. Okay, so let me just copy this. I'm going to pop in a code here and we'll go over it. We'll put it in here with our numbers. Input type numbers. And you'll notice here, input type number, I named it quantity. I should give it an ID of quantity too. So I'm just going to copy that, paste that here, and we'll change this to ID equals quantity. Now notice this, I got minimum equals 1 and max equals 5, okay? Can you guess what that's going to do? When we go back and we refresh the page, you'll see that we get this little number box in both places. But this one here, I could keep going up and up and up and up. Now notice what happens here. I can only go to 5. And if I try to put in a number 8, okay, and you know, it won't let me whenever I go to submit, okay? So that's what we have to keep in mind. You know, if you want to put in the number 8 and hit submit, you're going to get an error. Value must be less than or equal to 5, okay? And it won't let you submit the form. So that's the way you can use the minimum and the maximum. Now there's another way that you could do it. Let's say that you were asking for points. You know, maybe you're in a baseball game or so on, something like that. Notice this code, input type equals number. The name is points. Go ahead, let's go ahead and make the ID to follow suit. Okay. The ID is points, name is points. The minimum value is 0, the maximum of 100. But notice this, step is 10. And there's our value attribute. We're going to start our value at 30. Can you imagine what this is going to do? Well, let's go ahead and save it and refresh it in our browser. All right. So here we have enter your age, which, like you said, we could go up as far as we want. We can only go up to the number 5 and as low as the number 1. But now we have a default of 30 for these points. Whenever I click down, you'll notice it goes 20, then 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And then after 100, I can't put it. Notice if I put 82 in the box, you know, I stepped it in things of 10. Whenever I hit submit, I'm going to get a warning. Please enter a valid value. The nearest valid values are 80 and 90. Okay. So that's HTML5 helps you, you know, create forms that you need for that type of thing. Okay, let's talk about another type of input. Let me copy this. I'll have all this code for you on A1 Website Pro. And this input type is called URL. Okay. And we'll say enter your website address. Okay. And let's go ahead and get rid of all this stuff. All right. We'll leave submit there, but we'll call this submit 3. All right. Do that. And let me go ahead and grab the input type of URL and explain it to you. Pop it in here real quick. So the input type equals URL in quotes. The name is home page. So we should make the ID be home page as well for later on whenever we get into JavaScript programming. ID is home page, name is home page. Okay. We can even put a placeholder in there. Placeholder equals enter website, just like that. And we'll go ahead and save that. And I'll refresh this in the browser. Now you can see here, enter your website address. Now let's just put John, or JOHNSMITH, okay? And let's go ahead and hit submit. Notice it says, please enter a valid URL. So it's looking for http://www.mywebsite.com. And with that, it'll allow the form to submit, okay? So that's what the input type URL does. There's also another input type of search. So let's go ahead and copy our form here, input type URL. Let's copy this. And let's drop down a couple. And input type search. Okay. And so let's go search this. Okay. Now let's get rid of this one right here. And we can actually just go in here and start editing. Input type is search. Okay. And the ID, we'll call it search. And we'll call the name search. And we'll say enter keyword. Okay. We'll go ahead and save that. And let's go ahead and bring it up in the browser. So if we go to input type of search, here's where we enter the keyword, and that's going to just submit like any other form would, just like the text would. There's really nothing different between the search and the text. Okay. Let's go on to a phone number. So if we highlight all this, excuse me, copy and drop it down, paste in input type phone. Okay, let's do this. And we'll say phone input type. All right. And let's go ahead, input type, and it's TEL. Okay. And the ID, we'll just call it phone. The name, of course, we'll call phone. The placeholder will be enter phone number. Okay. And then, of course, we want to change these. This should be 4. Submit 4. And this would be submit 5. Okay. And we'll go ahead and save that. And let's go to our browser, refresh. If we scroll down here, you'll notice we can enter letters, or we can enter numbers. But what's interesting about this TEL input is when you bring it up on a mobile device, it's going to bring up their dialer, as if they were dialing a phone number. So a lot of times when mobile devices, they'll bring up the letters and the numbers, but this will bring up the phone dialer, the 0 through 9 with the operator. And it makes it real handy whenever you're asking for that type of number. I use it sometimes for, credit card entries because it brings up the number pad for them and it's real easy for them to enter things like that. Okay. So let's go on and let's start talking about dates. Okay. So dates and times. Let's drop down a couple. We'll paste everything in here. Input type date and times. And let's go date and time, input type. This is going to be our label. And let's go ahead and take this and just type in date, just like that. And then the ID, we'll call it date, the name, date. And for a placeholder, we really don't need one. Let me show you why. Let me take this out. And I'll save that. Refresh. Now you notice here, with the date, we get this nice little pop-out with the calendar. And whenever we select a date, it automatically puts it in there. Okay, so we could be submit date, make a little bit more sense. Now let's say that we want that required. What would we do? Well, we would just put required right here. Okay, so then that way, if they tried to submit, let's refresh. If they tried to submit with nothing in there, you could see. I can't see it too well because of the okay, see that? Please fill out this field. Okay, so that required will work even though that this default value is in there. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you. Now, let's say that we wanted to have the week in the date. Okay, so let me go ahead and grab this little code. The input type would be week. And let me go ahead and put this in right here. Input type week, name, we'll just call it week, no week here. And let's go ahead and give it the ID, because I want you guys to really get used to putting in the ID name in your stuff, because it's going to make your life a lot easier later. And we'll just go ahead and save that. And if I come back here and I refresh it, you can see that I get a week right here. But notice now I get a different calendar, week 24. And then I get the year of 2017. Then I'll get week 26 of 2017. Okay, so if you want that type of date format, from somebody, now you know what to do. Use the week. Let's go ahead and what if you just wanted the month? What if you just wanted a month from somebody? And I tell you what, let's go ahead and put our BR tags in here to give us some separation. And we'll pop that in here. So notice input type is month. And the name, we'll just make the name month. M-O-N-T-H. And once again, we're going to copy that and make our ID of month as well. All right, ID. And then we're going to close it. All right, and we'll save. Let's bring up our browser. We'll refresh. And now here we have another drop down, and we can just select the month. Okay, see how we're selecting the whole month? So if we go to the next one, the next one, the next one, if we want November 2017, there you go. Okay, so if you just wanted the month, but what if you just wanted the time? Okay, so let's go ahead and grab the time. We just want the time. Let's put another BR tag here for a line break. And then let's just pop this in here. So input type equals time, and the name, we're just going to call the name time. And let's go ahead and grab the ID, copy, put our ID in there of time. And we're going to go ahead and save that, put my little closing / there, refresh it in the browser. Now you'll notice what happens. 1, and then I put my cursor there, 3, then I get my AM or my PM, okay? And then we could do time like that. So now you know how to bring in, the date, the date today. If you wanted a week, you do that. If you wanted a month, you could do that. And now you know how to do the time, all right? This brings us to radio buttons, okay? And let's go ahead and make us another H2 tag. Copy this whole thing and bring it down here. You know what I'm going to do, since we're having problems with the bottom of the page showing, I'm going to put few BR tags just like that. So the page gets up on us. And we're going to go ahead and take all of this stuff out of here and change our submits right here on our last one to 6. Got to make sure that you do this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to run into trouble later. And then we have 7. Submit 7. Okay. And this particular one, we're going to be talking about input types radio. RADIO. Radio buttons. So let's go ahead. This input type, instead of date, we're going to change it to radio. And we'll change this to radio input types. And input type radio, the ID, we'll just use foo. And the name of foo. We'll take required out of there. And let's go ahead and create another button. Actually, with radio buttons, the best thing to do is to put the label in with them. So, for example, let me go ahead and grab this entire thing right here, X, and right inside this label, we're going to just change this, put mail, okay, and then we'll go ahead and copy this whole thing, paste that down there, and put female. Now with radio buttons, you should be putting in values. Like if we wanted to grab something from, since they're not entering a value, we need to set value. So the value of this one would be value equals quote, and we'll just say male. And then the value for this one, VALUE, equals, let's say female, just like that. All right. And we'll leave our line breaks there, and we'll go ahead and save that, load that in the browser. And if we scroll down here, you can see we have male or female. Now notice it unchecks the 1 because we both named them foo. So we're grabbing the value of foo. If we want to make it make a little bit more sense, we could just say sex, right? If you're trying to get the gender of the person. And so we can refresh that, see male or female. Now, what if you wanted to automatically have male checked? Because you notice here when we refresh the page, neither one of them is checked. If you want to have male or female checked, then what you would do is you come here to the end, for instance, male, we'll put checked, just like that. And we'll go ahead and save that. And you'll notice now when we reload the page that male is the one that's checked. We can still change it to female, but male is loaded by default. And you do it vice versa for the female as well. Okay, so that's how that works. Let's go ahead and create another H2 tag. And this one is going to be input type of email. Okay, and let's go ahead and create our label. Enter email, I guess. And we could go ahead and get rid of this label. Get rid of this label and the BR tag. Input type email. The ID, we could put EM for email. Maybe the name, we could say EM for the name, short for email. And we don't need to put a value in here, but let's just put a placeholder. Enter email, just like that. We'll go ahead and save that. Refresh it in our browser. And here you go. Enter email. Okay, and you could type max at a1websitepro.com. And when I hit submit, you notice it submits it. Okay, but now what if I did not put an email address in here? Okay, let me just hit submit. Whoops. Looks like it's resubmitting my form that I had before. So let me refresh this page. And let me just type in any old thing. Notice it's looking for the @ symbol, It's looking for that. So it's called email validation. It's trying to look and see if they put a valid email address. If they didn't, if they just put 1, 2, 3, try to hit submit, they're going to get a warning. So that's when we use the input type of email. What if you wanted to know somebody's favorite color? Okay, well, we have an input type for that as well. Let's go ahead and copy input type color. Okay, and let's put this to 8. Let's put this to 8, and we'll put this to 9. Submit 9. Okay, input type color. So let's do that. Input type color. The ID, we could say color. For the name, let's call it color as well. All right. And the placeholder really isn't going to matter that much, but we'll say pick color. See if it shows up. So we'll go ahead and reload it in our browser. Oh, we got enter email there. It's kind of confusing for the label. Let's type pick color. Save it and reload it in our browser. And whenever we click on this, you notice that it gives us this nice little color thing. Okay. And we can pick our favorite color, whatever it would be. And just hit enter on the keyboard, or you can actually hit this little X right here, and then you can have submit color. So we can do that. Submit color. Okay, so that's how you get a color. Now what that does is it grabs the CSS color and puts a value in there of it. And if you want to take a look at that, if you right click, inspect the element, you can see the color picker, but the value is going to be whatever a CSS color is. Okay, and then programmatically, if you wanted to know, you wanted to show up in CSS in the results, you could do that as well. All right, we're going to get into that, but right now we're just going over the different types of input fields that you can use. All right, now there's several different things. I already showed you the required, but there might be a thing where we're going to talk about attributes a little bit here. So let me go ahead, and where this email is here, we have the placeholder attribute. We're going to get rid of that. And what we're going to do is put a value in there. Okay. And the value is going to be max@a1websitepro.com. But we don't want that to change. Okay. There's two ways that we can do that. We can do a read only. Okay. Attribute. Let me go ahead and save that, and I'll show you what that does in the browser. Notice here, I can't click into it. I can't write anything. That's because we set that to read only. Okay. So that's one way we can do it. Okay. But what's kind of confusing about this is it looks like you can. All right. It looks like you can, but you really can't. So that's why I like to use disabled. Disable LED. All right. And we'll just say submit email. Let it make sense. And we'll go ahead and refresh this. Now you notice now I have a grayed out background. Okay. So if you're making a form and you have something in that form that you do not want to change, then you could use that disabled attribute and it'll, do it for you. Now notice how Max at A1 Website Pro is kind of cut off, and you got to go in there and scroll back and forth to read it. Well, there's another attribute called size that will resize these input types. So if we go here and give it another attribute of size equals, and we'll say 77. And if I save that, let's reload that in our browser, and I'll show you what happens. Notice how this comes clear out. Okay. So that's another way that you can control the sizes, the widths of the input fields. All right. There's another thing that you can do, and let's do it on one of the text input types at the top. And let me scroll here to clear the top. Input type text. Let's say that we didn't want them to write any more than 10 characters. Okay. Well, let's go to our code here. And what we're going to do is, let me find this here. Let's go max, length, max length equals, in quotes, going between the quotes, and put 10. All right. So let's go ahead and reload that into our browser. And let's start typing in characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but I can't go any further than that because the max length was 10. So you can use that on your forms too if you required a certain length to the particular input field. All right. Now let's go ahead and go over the select buttons. Okay. And I'm going to grab this because drop downs a lot of times are, we'll call them drop downs here. Drop downs, because that's what everybody tells me whenever they want to know, hey, how do you do a drop down? We'll say pick one. All right, now this is done a little bit different. It doesn't start with an input type. It starts with select, S-E-L-E-C-T, a select tag. And if you open a select tag, you have to close a select tag. Okay. All right. Now right inside here, we're going to drop this down and we'll tab over. Type in an option tag, O-P-T-I-O-N. Just like that. And then we'll just say 1 here. And then we got to close that option tag, O-P-T-I-O-N. But now inside this option tag, this is where we put our value, V-A-L-U-E, equals, and then the double quotes. And we'll just call this 1. All right. So that's your structure to start the drop down. Let's go ahead and copy this option value. All right. Drop down to the next line, and we'll call this one 2, T-W-O, T-W-O, and then we're going to drop down and put one more in. We'll put number 3 in there. Okay, T-H-R-E-E, T-H-R-E-E, and let's go ahead and save that. And I'll reload this in the browser. And we'll do a hard refresh, come clear to the bottom, page down. You see this? 1, 2, 3. So that's how we do our drop downs. All right. Okay, now there's one more I'm going to show you. It's called the text area, and it'll create a box for people to start typing in whatever they want to type in. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab this once again, copy, and I'm going to type in text area box, text area box. Okay, and we'll just say enter text right here in the label. And we're going to get rid of all this select. And the way the text area goes, it goes less than sign, text area, and then close text area. Okay. Now right in here, you want to give it, of course, a name. In fact, in the select, I should have told you about that. You can name that, and we'll just call it pick. So that's what the name would be, and the ID would equal pick. Okay. And this one right here on text area, it'd be the same thing. You know, you could give it an ID. In fact, we were doing our IDs first, so let's just keep following suit. It's not that you have to, it's just that I want things to make sense to you. Let me paste that in there. So you get a select ID of pick, and we're going to do the same thing with our text area. We need to give it an ID and give it a name. So we're going to go right in here and add those attributes in there, and we'll call this comment. Okay. Copy that, comment, and you can actually put a placeholder in there too. Equals enter comments here. All right. Let me go ahead and save that. We'll reload it in our browser so you can see what it looks like. And voila, there you go. You get a little text box, and you notice they can pull it, you know, if they have a lot of text. And you could put the max length on there and stuff like that if you wanted them to enter, you know, so many things. In fact, that says enter color, submit comments. All right, we'll save that and refresh, and there you go. Okay, I know this has been a rather long lesson, but there's a lot to HTML forms, and there's other things that we could get into like autofocus, patterns, and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to give you a basic rundown on how to create these forms, different elements that you could use in them, because we're going to start doing things with these, and, you know, for your benefit, I tried to teach you to do it the right way now, so then that way you'll get into the habit of it. So practice making forms, and remember, you can make the form as long or as short as you want, and you can put all different types of things in forms. So, and you don't have to keep starting with a form tag and end with a form tag. You can put as many items in a form tag that you want. Okay, just let it make sense to the person that's filling out the form. All right, this is Max with AIM Website Pro. I hope you was able to benefit from this tutorial.